Okay, I'm on the other side of my day, and this is basically me stopping to say, hey, look, this is what you got to go through or what I go through in order to get things right. Because I'm kind of anal about angles and measurements and stuff like that. So, in my other video, I'll talk about glassing in the pillars. So, they have all been glassed in right now. And what I should have done was really put a right or a 90-degree angle aluminum piece in there to basically have underneath the resin, so that way I can just literally just screw it in to the aluminum piece. I didn't think to do that. I can add it in later, but it's just one of those things that it would have been way better for me to think it through for a method of attachment, which is always a phase when you're engineering something. When you come up with an idea, and it's like, how is it going to attach? Which I still got to deal with the dash, but I fast forwarded setting that in without thinking about that, and I should have done that. So um, that's that. So both pillars are done; they're even, and that's perfect. I use my tape, so that way I can always have my guide. See that black dot in the center? I'm always knowing where my center point is. I believe in whenever you are fabricating or you're building something, you got to have a point of reference, something that you can trust, that it is 90 degrees, it is straight, it is your starting point. So I use that all the time. So I know what I want my center point to be as far as my dash is concerned. And I know it's going to line up for the shifter. As you see right there, everything is, really starting to line. Well, actually, it is lined up. And so that's how that looks, right? I suppose I should have pulled my tape. You guys could have seen everything lined up. But I'll also use, as the sun sets, I can see shadowing or whatever too. So I know everything right here. There's a complete line all the way down to the front of the car. This is going to come into play when you start talking about laying down carbon weave. So that weave obviously is something that you can trust. I mean, obviously it does contour to different surfaces and whatever, and the line can change. But if it's off, because there's so many lines, it can be very apparent. So you have to think this stuff through. So the curvature, like down here, has to be the same. It was kind of off, so I cut that on the left, and I had to figure out the gap and how much it had to be put back. I don't want to play with this contour down here at the bottom because I've created that before, and again, it's a matter of coming up with something you can trust. So I spent the better part of, I think, 2 days just kind of glassing everything in for the vents. Going to pick apart, getting a couple of different ones. The other one I got was cracked. I told you how I either cut this one down too, so that way I can make it kind of make sense. It has some contour on the ends right there, which I kind of like. It flared out a little bit. It's plastic, or it's kind of a thicker plastic. Is not a brittle one, so I don't have to worry about it heating up and then cracking like some of the other ones have. It's like a poly blend or something like that. So I'm liking this one opposed to the other one. I don't even have remnants around here where it's all cracked up and brittle. But anyway, so that one has been stitched together. It's going to be covered with carbon, so I'm not really worried about that. Where the incision is, that's going to be sanded down, and that's going to go away. But you can see the gap. So wider on the other end over here, because it had to rotate a little bit, right, just for it to be straight. And so the distance here is now equal on both sides. Everything is lined up. And whereas if I'd have left it the way it was before, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's not going to catch that. But I write tickets all the time on other people's builds. And I come in my shop or my lab and I do the exact same thing on myself. So I want to make sure that I am not messing up. I'm going to try to put my tape back so you can see my line, how I lined up everything. So you can see my little black dot up there. So I zoom in on my black dot. So that's my black dot. It is centered to the button to open up that top, what do you call that? Pocket. Because that's where the 202 is. And then it comes all the way down. Get my little screw there. Oops, my little screw there. And we're centered all the way down. So that comes into play too because, on the hood, we got lines, right? So the line has to run up from the very center Then we got another line right here in the center. And then this is centered. So there's a lot of things that have to be taken in consideration for centering. And I'll be doing the exact same thing when I get ready to put the hood on. The other thing too, when I started out with a long time ago, I actually have a laser light. So I just don't use it because there's no space in here. But when the car gets backed out, and I don't know if I'll get a chance to even use it though for finalization, because well, it just all depends if I start the car. If I start the car, then I can back it up. I can use all that stuff, but I know my floor around here is not, it's not the most level. But in any case, I can still put a laser light on there to make sure everything is right. And to be honest with you, as I'm thinking about it, because I just looked down at my lights, I guess this is the time where I can probably say insert picture here if I can. I've actually done that before to make sure that the lights are lined up, because you know, it can give you a cross line just to make sure everything is centered. And then of course, your height of everything is cool too. So, that is something I'll probably do. But to be honest with you, I've been doing this so long that my eyes will catch it before I even touch a laser. So, you know, I'm old school. I started this project before I even knew that there were videos on YouTube, whereas you can learn from other guys or see how some things are done or whatever. But I'm usually doing something that nobody else has done before. So I really don't kind of have a reference that I can look forward to or look up. There's nobody else building a Zonda like this with the dimensions or making changes on it. I think there's another guy who's doing kind of a Zonda R recreations. However, because I know this car backwards and forwards, the dimensions that I know he has are, you know, they're kind of off. But that's here another year. Everybody does their own creations however way they want. But and he's doing his out of, I think, metal, which I really kind of don't understand why you would recreate a car out of metal that's originally made out of carbotanium, but at least carbon fiber. Like I don't really understand that, but whatever. Everybody does what they want to do in their own lab. All right, so with me, there's no references, and I have to acclimate this to my SLC body's windshield, because this is not the original windshield. Although I do have the framing for the Zonda windshield, but it's very different, and I am not trying to spend the money to have a whole nother windshield made. That's very expensive. I don't even want to get down like that. So that's another reason why I went ahead and got this car. It's not a lot of people that don't know the differences, and then it's functional. It's no big deal. It's one detail out of all the rest of the details I get a chance to play with, manipulate from. I mean, I've touched every fender, or excuse me, every aspect of the car of a Zonda and made changes. And I don't care if it's from the side skirts, fender, front lip, headlights. I think the signal lights is the only thing I maintain to be the same. Front lip, different. Obviously, the hood is recreated, and that's different. The rear quarter is going to be different, or is different. I made it wide body. The doors are different, of course. It's SOC doors to begin with, but even the venting that comes out of the rear, the front fender, different. I'm gonna have active aero for the rear brakes. Hood snout. I incorporated. It's my detail. But that's just me, because I got body lines everywhere, but you can see the shadowing right there. I added a whole nother detail right there on the side, and I like that. But that's me. That's my style. That's my spin on whatever I do, let alone the interior. Everything in this interior is all created here. I created my bezel for my display years ago. It's just been cut down to match this dash. But these are many parts from other cars. Zonda AC. But then the housing for the radio. I got cup holders. I mean, and I haven't even started my center console yet. So everything is completely different than what I think anybody has seen on any car, to be honest with you. I really spent a lot of time being a sponge for details that other people play with. And I don't care if it's AI. I don't care if it's just some computer generated creations that somebody's done. Real cars that are out there. Cars that didn't make it. Cars that have certain... Man, I'm a sponge for that stuff. Tail lights, curvature and fenders and windshields, door panels, everything. And so I like to think that, yes, I started with a base with actually two different cars, and I made changes on every single panel, curve, everything. So anyway, with that said, let's move on. I got to get this glassed in. Temperatures kind of work for me. It was really hot earlier, so my cure time should still be fast because it's still warm. But this is what it looks like. It looks obliterated. I believe in getting my brackets to hold everything in place. I'm gonna pull this out, turn it upside down, glass it from underneath. And also I actually figured out my height. So I think what I'm gonna do, since I've got my outline for my display, I'm gonna cut a hole in here, so that way with that hole I'll have a 90-degree bracket underneath that'll bolt to the actual chassis of the car. It'll stick up. I'll put another bracket underneath the actual dash. They'll marry up, and then I'll be able to bolt it in here, bolt it in over there, because I'm gonna do the same thing, so that way it's bolted evenly. And then that way I have my height, and I'll also have security of the dash. I don't have to worry about getting screws, excuse me, all up here by the dash or anything like that. It'll be supported in the center. And then I'll figure out another way to bolt my cluster to the dash. And then the other one, see, there's two bolts that hold that piece in. So when that comes out, I'll have the bracket behind that. And that's how I'll access it. That's the engineering part. And so I'll come down here and then have some brackets, obviously,